The unexpected ambassador. The quantum transfer chamber hummed to life, molecules reassembling in a flash of blue light. Maya Chen materialized on the platform, her standard-issue Earth diplomatic corps uniform crisp despite the trillion-kilometer journey. She took a deep breath through her nose, tasting the slightly metallic tang of the recycled air aboard Celestial Nexus Station. Home to the Galactic Concordat Academy, the most prestigious educational institution in the known universe. Transfer complete. Welcome to Celestial Nexus Station, Terran Chen, announced an automated voice in oddly accented English. Maya stepped off the platform, her modest duffel bag slung over one shoulder. At 22, she stood just 165 centimeters tall with an athletic build, completely average by human standards. On Earth, she'd never stood out in a crowd. Here, she was the first human ever admitted to the Academy after decades of diplomatic negotiations, countless qualification exams, and 3 separate medical quarantines. Remain stationary for biological screening, the voice instructed. A beam of purple light swept over her body. Maya had expected bureaucracy, but the intensity of the scanning surprised her. Scanning complete. Dithworlder containment protocols in effect. Maya frowned. Dithworlder. The classification still bothered her, even though she'd been briefed extensively. Earth's gravity, atmospheric pressure, radiation levels, and biodiversity had earned humans the dubious distinction of evolving on a Class 12 death world. The diplomatic briefings had stressed that this designation was merely scientific, not pejorative. The doors at the far end of the chamber slid open, revealing her welcoming committee. Maya had studied xenobiology extensively, but nothing prepared her for the diversity of forms assembled before her. Beings with multiple limbs, transparent skin, floating gas sacs, crystalline structures, and bodies that seemed to defy conventional physics. What struck her most, however, was their collective reaction to her presence. The assembled faculty members flinched backward almost in unison when she stepped forward. Tentacles retracting, eye stalks pulling back, gelatinous forms quivering. "They're afraid of me," Maya realized with a shock. Professor Zilnox, the Academy's liaison to Earth, hovered forward. The Vexillian's body resembled a collection of luminescent tendrils orbiting a central core. 2 manipulator appendages extended, but stopped precisely 3 meters from Maya. Terran Chen, welcome to the Galactic Concordat Academy. Zilnox's translator pulsed with soft blue light. We have prepared specialized accommodations that should meet your unique biological requirements. The way the translator emphasized unique made it sound more like dangerous. Thank you for the welcome, Professor, Maya replied with a polite nod, remembering her briefing to avoid showing teeth when smiling. I'm honored to represent Earth as your first human student. A small being with 6 eyes arranged in a perfect hexagon whispered to its neighbor. But its translator wasn't calibrated properly. Natural predator stance. Musculature density indicates combat readiness. Maya kept her expression neutral despite her surprise. At the Diplomatic Academy on Earth, she'd been described as bookish and unassuming. No one had ever considered her physically intimidating. Her quarters were located at the end of a specialized corridor, with hazard warnings in multiple languages. The automated guide explained with disturbing enthusiasm. Reinforced walls, independent atmospheric controls, and emergency containment fields have been installed for your comfort and security, and everyone else's protection from me, Maya thought as the door closed behind her. The room itself was spacious, with Earth-standard gravity and atmospheric composition. One wall displayed her class schedule alongside a concerning number of safety protocols, restricted areas, and emergency procedures. Sitting on the bed, Maya activated her tablet and found a message from the Academy's administration, a 250-page document titled Dithworlder Integration. Understanding your classification. Excerpt. Classification 12 death worlds, such as Terra/Earth. Extreme planetary environments featuring most or all of the following. High gravity. Earth gravity exceeds standard by 2.7x. Aggressive atmospheric composition, oxidizing environment, extreme temperature variations, inhabitable range exceeds standard by 300%. Abundant predator evolution, apex predator species with pack hunting psychology, microbiological saturation, hyper-aggressive immune systems, enhanced physical resilience, internal calcium-based support structures. Note: sapient species evolving under such conditions develop biological and psychological adaptations that require special safety considerations in standard galactic environments. Maya laughed despite herself, then stopped when she remembered the room was likely monitored. What the document described as exceptional survival traits was simply being human. She'd never considered her bones, internal weapons, or her immune system hyper-aggressive before. The next section on human psychology was equally alarming, describing their evolution as apex predators with pack-hunting instincts, territorial aggression patterns, and persistence predation techniques. A special note highlighted humans' concerning ability to form social bonds with unrelated species as a potential psychological colonization risk. Her evening was interrupted by a message from Professor Vrin, her assigned academic advisor. Terran Chen, report to Laboratory 7 tomorrow at 800 hours for baseline physiological assessment. Please observe the following safety protocols. Refrain from rapid movements. Avoid direct eye contact with empathic species. Do not display teeth. No auditory projections exceeding 65 decibels. No food consumption in public areas. Your cooperation with these temporary measures will facilitate integration. Maya composed a polite response, then looked out the viewport at the gas giant the station orbited. She recalled the words of Ambassador Rodriguez during her final briefing. "You're not just a student, Ms. Chen. You're a diplomat. How you conduct yourself will determine whether doors open or close for humanity." She would approach this challenge like any scientific problem: careful observation, data collection, and hypothesis testing. If humans were perceived as dangerous deathworlders, she would systematically demonstrate that humanity was more than its evolutionary background. As the station's lights dimmed for night cycle, Maya noticed something odd about her room's environmental controls. The settings registered as extreme Earth conditions, yet everything felt perfectly normal to her. What felt comfortable to her was apparently considered dangerously extreme by galactic standards. Maya Chen, ordinary physics student from San Francisco, was considered one of the most dangerous beings on the entire station. Her first week of classes proved challenging in unexpected ways. In advanced xenobiology, Maya carefully chose a seat in the back corner, hoping to attract minimal attention. It didn't work. Students filed in, their various appendages and sensory organs twitching nervously when they spotted her. A clear bubble of empty seats formed around her, as if she were radioactive. Professor Thrix, a being with 12 limbs and skin that shifted colors with emotional states, began discussing cellular adaptation to different planetary environments. His skin had settled into a cautious yellow-green. Today we examine how various species modify internal chemistry too. He stopped abruptly as Maya raised her hand. His skin flashed a startled orange. "Yes, Terran Chen," he asked, his translator amplifying his hesitation. "I had a question about the reading on cellular regeneration," Maya said politely. 3 students nearest to her immediately activated personal force shields. Professor Thrix's color deepened to a worried amber. "Perhaps save questions for after class," he suggested. "Now, as I was saying." Maya nodded and lowered her hand, making a mental note that direct questions might be interpreted as confrontational. The material sciences disaster came 2 days later. Students were testing a new composite developed for deep space applications. This polymer crystal matrix can withstand forces up to 700 megapascals, explained Professor Orla, a spherical being who floated rather than walked. It is effectively unbreakable by any biological entity. When Maya's turn came to examine the sample, she carefully took it between her fingers. The material snapped in half with an audible crack. The classroom went silent. Every sensory organ turned toward her in shock. "I barely touched it," Maya said, horrified. "I'm so sorry, Professor." Professor Orla's translator emitted a high-pitched tone that might have been alarm. "Class dismissed," she announced before quickly floating away. By her 5th day, word had spread. Maya had broken 3 more unbreakable materials, caused a sensitive plant species to enter emergency dormancy by merely approaching it, and accidentally knocked over a crystalline student when turning too quickly in a hallway. The cafeteria experience was possibly the most humiliating. Maya entered during peak meal hours, tray in hand. As she walked toward an empty table, a wave of reactions rippled through the room. Several gaseous beings condensed slightly, others stopped mid-consumption. Maya sat down and opened her container of vegetable curry and rice. The scent wafted through the air. 3 students immediately left their tables. Several others activated small personal ventilators. She caught fragments of translated whispers, consuming actual cellular matter. "And are those tearing implements?" And, once living tissue, Maya realized her perfectly normal meal was horrifying to species who synthesized nutrients directly or consumed only mineral compounds. She quickly closed her container and left, cheeks burning with embarrassment. On day 6 came the physical assessment in comparative physiology. Students were testing natural abilities in the Academy's adaptable gymnasium. When Maya's turn came, Professor Kivrin instructed her to perform light cardiovascular activity. She began a gentle jog around the track. Alarms immediately blared. Red lights flashed. 3 security drones descended from the ceiling. "Hey LT, biological threat level 4, announced the station eye. "Predatory movement patterns detected." Professor Kivrin frantically waved his appendages. "System override. This is an authorized demonstration." The alarms ceased, but students cowered at the edges of the room. Maya stopped, mortified. "Perhaps just walk," suggested Professor Kivrin, his skin now a deep purple. Next came strength assessment. Maya was asked to demonstrate a basic exercise from Earth. She dropped to the floor and performed a standard push-up. 2 empathic students immediately collapsed. Medical drones rushed to their aid. "They're sensing your muscle contractions as pain," explained Professor Kivrin. "Your body is exerting forces that would tear their musculature apart." By the end of the week, Maya had become a reluctant celebrity. Students observed her from safe distances. Professors modified entire lesson plans around her presence. The administration sent daily safety updates. Her attempts to blend in had failed spectacularly. The turning point came in advanced energy systems with Professor Vex, a tall, willowy being with skin like polished metal. "Today we discuss theoretical energy configuration XR742, announced Professor Vex. "This configuration could revolutionize interstellar communications, but it requires precise manipulation under conditions no biological entity could withstand. Extreme pressure, low temperature, and exposure to radioactive elements." Maya studied the specifications. The conditions were challenging but not impossible. Similar environments existed on Earth. "I could try," she said quietly. The class went silent. Professor Vex's metallic skin rippled in what might have been surprise. "Terran Chen, perhaps you misunderstand. These conditions are lethal to biological systems." "Not to humans," Maya replied. "We have researchers who work in similar environments. The pressure and temperature are within our tolerance range, and I've done microassembly work before." Professor Vex consulted his tablet, presumably reviewing human physiological data. His posture shifted in what Maya recognized as academic interest overcoming fear. "Fascinating," he said finally. "Would you be willing to attempt this as a demonstration?" "It would be unprecedented." An hour later, Maya stood before the energy configuration chamber in the advanced laboratory. A crowd had gathered, not just students from her class, but professors, administrators, and even the academy director herself. The chamber was a reinforced cylinder filled with specialized equipment. Warning signs covered its surface. The chamber will gradually increase pressure and decrease temperature, explained Professor Vex. You may exit at any point if you experience distress. Maya nodded, donning the specialized gloves that would allow her to manipulate the molecular assembly tools. Beginning demonstration, announced the AI. Maya entered the chamber. The door sealed with a hiss. The temperature dropped as pressure increased. She felt the familiar sensation in her ears, similar to deep diving. The cold made her fingers slightly less nimble but still functional. Through the glass, she could see the astonished faces of students and faculty, their various appendages pressed against the barrier in fascination. When optimal conditions were reached, Maya began the delicate work of energy configuration. The tools were designed for mechanical manipulation, not biological hands, but she adapted quickly. 20 minutes later, a small glowing crystal, the supposedly impossible energy configuration, sat on the platform before her. Professor Vex's metallic skin was rippling rapidly. The Academy Director's 6 limbs were gesticulating in what might have been excitement or alarm. As the chamber decompressed and warmed, Maya adjusted her uniform, trying to appear casual despite her racing heart. She had done it, not because she was extraordinary among humans, but because what seemed impossible to the galactic community was merely challenging for a human. When she stepped out, the crowd didn't retreat in fear. For the first time since her arrival, they pressed forward, translators buzzing with questions and exclamations. Maya smiled, careful not to show her teeth. Crisis and recognition. The following morning, something unexpected awaited Maya. When she entered her advanced theoretical physics class, students didn't move away. Instead, several turned toward her with what she interpreted as curiosity rather than fear. As she took her seat, a crystalline being named T-Vex shifted closer. "Is it true you successfully configured XR742 yesterday?" T-Vex asked, their translator producing a melodic chiming voice. "Yes," Maya replied cautiously, careful not to make sudden movements. "And you didn't require medical intervention afterward?" "No, the conditions weren't that extreme for humans." A small crowd gathered. Zikur, a gaseous being contained in a transparent environmental suit, floated closer. "Is your species born with pressure resistance, or is it trained?" they asked. Maya considered how to explain. "Neither, really. Earth has deep oceans and high mountains. Some places have extreme temperatures. Humans have explored most of these environments. What you call extreme conditions are just normal variations on my planet." This triggered a flurry of translated whispers. The students were recording her responses on their tablets. Throughout the day, Maya noticed a shift in how others treated her. The fearful avoidance had transformed into scientific curiosity. Students no longer fled from her path. Many nodded or waved appendages in greeting. Some even attempted the human gesture of waving. That afternoon, Professor Kivrin requested Maya's presence in the xenobiology lab. She found a small group of faculty members waiting. "Terran Chen," Professor Kivrin began, his skin a neutral blue, "we would like to request your assistance with a research project." "What kind of project?" Maya asked. "We believe we have fundamentally misclassified humans," explained Professor Vex. "While Earth is indeed a Class 12 death world by objective measures, our understanding of how those conditions shaped human biology appears incomplete." Dr. Mori, a gelatinous being with multiple sensory nodules, undulated forward. "Would you be willing to demonstrate some basic human capabilities? With your permission, we would record data to create a more accurate profile of human biology." Maya hesitated. "I'm not exceptional among humans. I'm just an average student." "That's precisely what makes this valuable," said Professor Kavrin. "If an average human can perform feats our models classified as impossible, then we need better models." Maya agreed, and what followed were the strangest tests she had ever experienced. She jogged on a treadmill while sensors recorded her vital signs. She lifted weights that the professors considered dangerously heavy, but were routine for her. She held her breath for a minute, causing Dr. Mori to check their equipment for malfunction. "Your ability to temporarily cease respiration is remarkable," Dr. Mori noted. "It's not that impressive," Maya said. "Professional freedivers on Earth can hold their breath for several minutes." This caused another round of frantic note-taking. The temperature tests were particularly revealing. Maya comfortably withstood ambient temperatures from 10 to 35 degrees Celsius, a range the scientists considered extreme thermal variation tolerance. Humans routinely experience much wider temperature variations, Maya explained. Some places on Earth go from below freezing to very hot in a single day. Professor Kivrin's skin turned pale yellow with amazement. "And you don't hibernate during these changes?" "No, we just put on or take off clothing." By the end of the session, the professors had filled multiple data tablets. As they reviewed the results, Maya heard the academy director's voice from the doorway. "Is it true the human performed all standard tests without enhancement?" "See for yourself," Professor Vex said, handing over a data tablet. The director's limbs trembled slightly as she reviewed the information. "This changes everything," she whispered. Word spread quickly through Celestial Nexus. By the next day, students from all departments were finding reasons to pass by Maya's classes. Some even waited outside halls to catch a glimpse of the human who defied biological expectations. In the cafeteria, Maya no longer sat alone. A small group of braver students had begun joining her table, watching with fascination as she ate. "Does consuming solid matter hurt?" asked a photosynthetic student named Elix. "Not at all," Maya said. "It's enjoyable." "And those are plant and animal cells?" asked another student, pointing to her vegetables and lab-grown protein. "Yes, on Earth most humans eat both." "Fascinating. Your species can process multiple biological kingdoms as fuel." Maya couldn't help but laugh. "I never thought about it that way." After lunch, Maya headed to the library to study. As she walked, she noticed students no longer fled from her path. Instead, many nodded or waved appendages in greeting. In the library, she found T-Vex waiting at her usual study table. "I hope I'm not intruding," T-Vex said, crystalline-structured, shifting nervously. "I wanted to ask if you might help me understand something about human learning methods." "Of course," Maya said, sitting down carefully. "What would you like to know?" "Is it true humans learn through failure?" T-Vex's translator hesitated on the last word, as if it were difficult to pronounce. "Yes, that's often how we learn best. We try, make mistakes, and improve. But failure is dangerous," T-Vex said, crystal edges vibrating slightly. "In my culture, perfect performance is expected from the first attempt. Anything less indicates poor preparation." Maya considered this. "On Earth, we have a saying, 'Practice makes perfect.' Most humans can't do something perfectly the first time." "This explains much about your approach to the energy configuration challenge," T-Vex said thoughtfully. "You weren't certain of success, yet you attempted it anyway." "Exactly." As they continued talking, more students drifted to nearby tables, pretending to study while eavesdropping on their conversation. The blaring emergency alarms shattered the afternoon quiet of the advanced xenolinguistics lecture. Red warning lights pulsed through the previously tranquil hall as students looked up from their translation exercises in confusion. "Emergency protocols activated," announced the station eye in 17 languages simultaneously. "Containment failure detected in primary habitat ring. Atmospheric contamination imminent. All personnel proceed to emergency shelters immediately." Professor Lixel's translucent membrane pulsed with distress patterns. "Everyone, please proceed calmly to your designated evacuation points. Remember your evacuation groups." Students began filing out, following the station's rehearsed emergency procedures. Maya joined the flow but kept her attention on the emergency data scrolling across wall displays. The situation was worse than the AI's calm voice suggested. Primary habitat ring. Atmospheric regulators offline. Oxygen levels decreasing rapidly. Estimated time to critical, 28 minutes. Estimated evacuation completion, 47 minutes. Simple subtraction, 19 minutes difference. Not everyone would make it out in time. Maya stepped out of the evacuation line and moved to a wall terminal, quickly accessing the station schematic she had studied during her first days aboard. The Atmospheric Regulation Center was located in the station's outer ring, surrounded by multiple safety systems that had somehow all failed simultaneously. Professor Lixel noticed her actions. "Terran Chen, you must evacuate with the others. The evacuation will take too long," Maya said, still studying the schematics. "Not everyone will make it out. The automated repair systems will attempt emergency restoration," Lixel said, their translucent body now pulsing rapidly with alarm patterns. "What exactly is happening to the atmosphere?" Maya asked. Lixel hesitated, then accessed their faculty override to display the engineering data. Primary oxygen generators are offline. Backup systems failing to engage due to damage from an unexpected power surge. Carbon dioxide scrubbers non-functional. Maya studied the diagrams, her mind racing. On Earth, she had taken wilderness survival training that included emergency oxygen management. The station's life support used similar principles, just adapted for space. "I need to get to the Atmospheric Control Center," she said suddenly. "Impossible." Lixel's translator emitted the word at maximum volume. "The area is already experiencing oxygen depletion and carbon dioxide buildup. Those conditions would be lethal within minutes." Maya moved to the emergency equipment locker and extracted her environmental suit, the special one designed for her as the station's only human. It was originally made to protect other species from her biological hazards, but would now serve the opposite purpose. "This suit can protect me from the environment," she said, beginning to put it on. "And humans can function in low-oxygen environments better than most species here." "The carbon dioxide levels alone," Lixel began, "are higher in some Earth cities on bad days." Maya completed the sentence as she sealed her helmet. "Professor, I've studied your life support systems. I can help." Before Lixel could respond further, Maya activated her helmet seal and headed for the exit. The professor made one last attempt to stop her, tentacles reaching out but stopping short of actually touching the human. "At least take someone with you," Lixel called after her. To Maya's surprise, T-Vex stepped forward, crystalline form gleaming under the emergency lights. "I will accompany the human," T-Vex announced. "My species can survive without atmospheric support for up to 40 minutes." Maya nodded her appreciation, and together they moved against the flow of evacuating students toward the damaged section. The journey to the Atmospheric Control Center took them through increasingly deserted corridors. Warning signs flashed on every surface, and emergency barriers attempted to block their path until Maya overrode them with her emergency clearance. "Why are you doing this?" T-Vex asked as they hurried along. "You could safely evacuate." "Because I can," Maya said simply. "My biology gives me advantages here. It would be wrong not to use them to help." When they reached the outer ring, the difference was immediately apparent. The air was noticeably thinner, and Maya's suit sensors showed oxygen levels at 14% and falling. Uncomfortable for humans, but still within functional parameters for her. The control center's doors had sealed automatically, but Maya's emergency override granted them access. Inside, the automated systems blinked with warning lights, and the central console displayed cascading failures across all life support systems. "The primary oxygen generator's molecular separator has failed," T-Vex observed, leaning over the diagnostic display. "And the manual restart requires accessing the generator core directly." Maya examined the schematics. "Where's the core located?" T-Vex pointed to a sealed door at the far end of the control room. "Through there, but the chamber beyond has almost no oxygen now. Even with your suit, the pressure differentials could cause structural damage." Maya checked her suit readouts. "I can handle it. What needs to be done?" "The molecular separator needs to be physically reset and realigned. It's a two-person job requiring significant physical strength and precise coordination, T-Vex explained. The design assumes mechanical assistance would be available, but those systems are offline too. Maya considered the challenge. Show me exactly what needs to be done. T-Vex displayed the procedure on a portable tablet. The separator required simultaneously holding a heavy stabilization ring in place while realigning the internal calibration mechanisms, a task designed for robotic assistants, not biological beings. I can do this, Maya said with more confidence than she felt. But I'll need your help with the calibration sequence from here. T-Vex's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been concern. You understand the risks. Even for a Dithworlder, these conditions are extreme. Maya smiled behind her helmet. That's the thing about humans, T-Vex. We're at our best when things are at their worst. With a final check of her suit integrity, Maya entered the generator chamber. The door sealed behind her with a pressurized hiss. Inside, her suit immediately registered the hostile environment. Oxygen below 5%, pressure fluctuating dangerously, and temperature dropping rapidly as the environmental systems failed. The molecular separator, a massive cylindrical machine with countless intricate components, occupied the center of the chamber. Maya could see the problem immediately. The stabilization ring had slipped from its housing, causing a cascade of misalignments through the system. I can see the issue, she reported through her comm. Beginning repairs now. Maya positioned herself beneath the heavy stabilization ring. According to the specifications, it weighed nearly 200 kilograms. Difficult for a human but not impossible in the station's reduced gravity. She braced herself and lifted. The ring was heavier than expected, but Maya's muscles, evolved on Earth's higher gravity, managed the load. With careful movements, she repositioned the ring into its proper housing. Ring is in position, she called out, sweat beading on her forehead despite the suit's cooling systems. Beginning alignment now. The next part was more challenging. While holding the ring stable with one arm, she needed to reach inside and manually realign the calibration mechanisms, a delicate procedure requiring precise movements. As Maya worked, her suit warnings became more urgent. The oxygen in her recycled air was diminishing faster than expected due to her exertion. Her fingers were growing numb from the cold. Each breath became more labored. Terran Chen, your vital signs are fluctuating dangerously. T-Vex's concerned voice came through the comm. You should abort the procedure. Almost done, Maya gasped, fingers finding the final calibration rod. With a last surge of effort, she twisted it into position and heard the satisfying click of proper alignment. The separator hummed to life, its components beginning to glow with renewed energy. Oxygen molecules were once again being extracted from the station's recycling system. Maya collapsed to her knees, her vision tunneling. The last thing she heard before unconsciousness claimed her was T-Vex's frantic voice over the comm, and the welcome sound of the chamber's atmospheric systems engaging once more. Maya awoke in the medical bay, surrounded by unfamiliar equipment. The first face she saw belonged to Professor Grin, his skin a concerned deep blue. Welcome back, Terran Chen, he said, relief evident in his translator's tone. How do you feel? Like I tried to outrun a transport shuttle. Maya croaked, her throat dry. Did it work? Is everyone okay? Thanks to you, yes. The oxygen generators are functioning at 94% capacity, more than sufficient until proper repairs can be completed. No casualties were reported. Maya tried to sit up but found herself weaker than expected. How long was I out? Approximately 6 Earth hours. Your body experienced significant stress, though your cellular repair mechanisms are quite remarkable. Our medical staff has been monitoring your recovery with great interest. Before Maya could respond, the door slid open to reveal the Academy Director, accompanied by T-Vex and several other students. Terran Chen. The director began formally. On behalf of the Celestial Nexus Station and the Galactic Concordat Academy, I extend our deepest gratitude for your actions. You put yourself at considerable risk to save others. Anyone would have done the same if they could, Maya said simply. That is precisely the point, the director continued. No one else could have. What we once classified as dangerous Deathworlder traits, your muscle density, oxygen efficiency, temperature tolerance, radiation resistance, proved to be the exact qualities needed in a crisis. Tivek stepped forward, crystalline form glittering under the medical bay lights. The human didn't just save lives. She has changed how we understand Deathworlders. Professor Kivrin nodded, his skin shifting to a thoughtful green. We have initiated a complete review of our classification system. What we previously labeled as hazardous evolutionary adaptations must now be reconsidered as specialized crisis response capabilities. The Academy Director's appendages moved in a formal gesture of respect. The Galactic Concordat has unanimously approved the immediate expansion of the Human Exchange Program. By next semester, 10 more human students will join our academy. Maya felt a surge of pride. She had come hoping to prove herself and open doors for humanity. It seemed she had succeeded beyond expectations. There is one more development, T-Vex added, moving closer to Maya's bed. We have created a new course for next semester. Adaptive problem solving. The human approach. We were hoping you might consider co-teaching it. Maya smiled, no longer hiding her teeth. To her satisfaction, no one flinched. I'd be honored, she said. As the visitors filed out to let her rest, Maya reflected on the strange journey that had brought her here. She had arrived as a biological curiosity, feared for the very adaptations that had allowed humanity to thrive on Earth. Now, those same traits were being recognized not as threats, but as valuable contributions to galactic society. In the quiet of the medical bay, Maya Chen, ordinary physics student from San Francisco, had become something else entirely. A bridge between worlds, helping the galaxy see humanity not as dangerous Deathworlders, but as resilient allies with unique gifts to share. The path forward would still hold challenges, misunderstandings, and cultural barriers to overcome. But something fundamental had changed. Fear had given way to curiosity, and curiosity had led to connection. Maya closed her eyes, tired but content. Before drifting back to sleep, she sent a brief message to Earth. Mission accomplished. Send more humans. They're ready for us now.